Hello. Are we a go? Are we live? How we do it? Welcome. Welcome to another stream. Is anyone there? It may just be me again, which I don't know. That would be kind of sad. Ah, there we are. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome. I'm glad you could all make it. Actually, I think this is the last stream of the year because I'm going to take a break for the holiday. So, yeah, last stream of 2020. So, pretty crazy. Yes, I got new glasses. Yes, but they are all better now. No longer do I have to deal with the tape. Oh, bye, Ralph. Thanks for joining in for the first minute. Yeah. All right. Well, this week we have a very cool stream because I don't know this. I'm really excited for the Whisperers. I don't know about anyone else, but the Whisperers are really gonna be cool. I think like they're such a cool concept, and I really like how they're gonna turn out. And when we talked about them a couple weeks ago, everyone was super hyped for this stream. So, including me, I'm very hyped. So, yeah. Mr. Fruit, do I need to stall more? You guys, okay, in the Discord, you guys love putting stuff at the very last minute. And so we all have to rush to set up a document at the very last second with like 10 minutes to go. So, yeah. You guys, you had 2 weeks. You had 2 weeks. You know, is that a nah to we're not ready yet? Because I can stall for time. I can stall for as much time as we need. Or, I mean, we could just get started. Mr. Fruit, I really appreciate your help with setting up this document. Okay. So, if we're all ready, I don't think we have any other questions. We did a recap a couple weeks ago. Generic or large recap? I don't know what I want to call it. Huge recap, I guess. A big recap. We had the 2 big recaps. Stream 17 and 34. Those are the 2 streams. So we have those. Now we can do another 17. And then we will do another recap over the past 17. So we've got a little ways to go until the next recap stream. So not that we're really thinking about it yet. Anyway, enough stalling for time. Styming. That's the combination for stall and time. Yeah. Okay. I think we're ready, right? Nobody has any objections or questions. We're just ready to hop right into it. I'll assume we are. Yeah? Okay. I'm going to assume we're ready. So, the Whispers. Okay, so that's the design. As far as what the Whisperers are, just a very generic recap for those, just so that we can get our minds flowing a little bit. The Whisperers, maybe we should start a little bit further back. There are 9 islands, and each island has a head. I don't remember what they were called. I need to memorize those names. But each island has like a ruler or like a governor or whatever of that island, and they oversee the entire island, right? And then it breaks down like it's a tree government kind of thing. But there's the one head, like sort of like the president if we're thinking United States terms, except for each island. I don't know. Anyway, there's that. But obviously the king oversees all. He's like the big overlord guy. Now he is like the governor of his own island, the King's Island, like the biggest city island. So he does not have time to be overseeing all the other islands as well. So he has these whisperers that go around and just sort of make sure that the governors of each island are doing what they should and are doing what they believe is in the best interest of the king and what his agenda is, whatever that may be at the time. So these guys go around and they look sort of like this. These were just designs off of Google, so they're just reference designs. Viceroys. Viceroys are the people that oversee each island. Okay. So the viceroys. So these guys, the whisperers, will oversee the viceroys, making sure they're doing everything good, they're not messing up. And these guys have almost as much authority as the king. Like, if this guy tells you to do something, you gotta do it. Because, like, it's basically the king's word that's telling you. The only person higher than this is the king. So, you better listen to them. And everybody in the lower government is terrified of these guys. Because look at how scary they are. They're super scary and they have a complete authority. And they could just completely get rid of you in an instant because they're super powerful. They always carry around weapons, stuff like that. So you don't want to mess with these guys. And the viceroys and all the other people are terrified. Now, only really people at the top like the viceroys and like maybe the viceroys like closest inner circle know about the whisperers. Because like the public doesn't really know about them. Like maybe there's like public theories and stuff like that, like, oh, did you see this mysterious figure hanging out behind the viceroy or whatever? And so like there could be that, but they know their existence is not acknowledged. So yeah, this is sort of what I envisioned whenever we were talking about them. We talked about them with a black cloak, and they were just like this mysterious, nobody knew their face or like anything about them. They were just a black cloak. So I like this design a little bit better than this one, because this one looks more like a I don't know what the best, like a robe maybe, like a wizard robe kind of, whereas this one looks like a cloak. You know, I like the cloak design a little bit better, but it doesn't, it gets the same idea across. It's a black cloak thing that covers their entire body and you can't see anything. And then obviously the weapon would be different depending on each whisper, because each of them are going to have unique traits. But really, when they're in their like public form, this is what they look like. But I envision when they're battling, like Luna and Nico, for example, they're probably going to start out with this, but as the battle gets more intense, they're going to like take off their robe because they're like, okay, I need to fight harder or something. And so then we're going to see their true form, and then their personality starts to take more, like, become more prevalent, and then it's like, okay, so this is who this person is. And then we can identify which of the whisperers are who, and etc. So I think this is more for when we see them, like, around the viceroys, and then we will see their actual designs when they're interacting with Luna and Nico, just to give them more personality. Okay. So this is, I think, someone from the Discord who had said this is what they envisioned the cloak was. Tattoo. So maybe there's a tattoo on each of them. Do they have tattoo technology there? I don't know if they would be able to get tattoos. Maybe there's some sort of magic, or maybe it's like a fire burn kind of thing. Maybe. Yeah. So very similar. I think did everyone have the same idea of whispers? Like when we were talking about them, just like a black cloak, did everyone sort of envision these? Like this is what I've had in my head the entire time. If someone else had a different idea as to what they might look like, go ahead and put them in the chat and we can discuss them. But I mean, it's pretty hard to like have a different vision of a black cloak. You know, like it's all pretty similar, I would assume. Like slight variation here and there, but for the most part, this. I don't know how bad the stream delay is, but Code Mari, I think, responded pretty quick, so hopefully it's not too bad. Do they have genders? I mean, publicly, the Viceroys don't really know anything about them. Their voice is probably, like, I would assume artificially made deep. Like they talk in a, okay, do this now. Like when they're talking with the viceroys and whatnot, just to like conceal their identities even more. But yes, they would have genders, they have species, like they are fully fledged characters that we will see. So yes, they are real people. They're not like robots or something. What, voice the king in that voice? I don't know. That voice is kind of hard to do though. A little bit. Okay. So I think we're all good with that. So now I guess we're just gonna sort of go through like each individual whisperer. Like I said, there's like 9 whisperers. 1 for each island. I don't know. Maybe we should talk about how the King's Island Whisperer is, because the King's Island is one of the 9 islands, and I don't know how that would work with the King. No, I'm not saying that, Mr. Fruit. I'm sorry. So, do we want to discuss how that would work? If like, how is the King's Whisperer going to work? I mean, it could still be like the same idea, like the Whisperers helping to run the King's Island, but it's just they're not. Or what we could say is like in the Whisperers, there's like the one Whisperer General, and that's the King's Whisperer, like the personal Whisperer. We may have even talked about this before, but it could be that the King has his own like personal Whisperer, and like he like, not that the King would need a bodyguard, but the Whisperer would essentially be a bodyguard to the King. And maybe oh wait, okay, the King, we talked about the Whisperers are the Whisperers, but also the Knights. I completely forgot about that. There's like the League of Knights, like the 9 Knights that the King has. And so there is the Knights in the public eye, but they're the same people as the Whisperers. Does anyone else remember that? I completely forgot about that. But we did talk about the Knight, or the King, having his like little circle of Knights that are like his bodyguards. And so in the public eye, they would know that the King has 9 bodyguards, but then the Whisperers would sort of just be these viceroys, like overseers. Does anyone else remember that? I thought that was something we talked about. Maybe it wasn't? In the public eye, I that would mean like the public knows that the public knows the King, and the public knows that the King has his 9 Knights, right? And so they would know sort of like a little information about these Knights, like, oh, here's the Cat Knight, you know, like, or they would know the name too, and they would be like, oh, we love you, Knight, like, you're so cool, and like I don't know, maybe they would be sort of like idols a little bit. It's like, oh man, they're so cool, they've been awarded this and that, and like, oh, which is your favorite Knight? You know, maybe something like that. So yes, the public would know who these Knights are. The public doesn't know about the Whisperers, pretty much. The Viceroys and like their inner circle know about the Whisperers because they just oversee. They are the same people. But they're also the Knights. Okay, so Code, you remember. Maybe not true identities, but maybe they're... Well, I mean, yeah, but like at the same time, what does like their true identities even mean? Like, it's not like these Knights live out in the public. Like, they live with the King in the King's castle. So, like, it's not like they really have like a public life. Their life is being a Knight / Whisperer. Luna could have her favorite knight that she has to end up fighting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could make them normal people in society, but I always just envisioned these guys being sort of like out of reach from the public. Like, they live in the king's castle. They're these mysterious-esque people. Not as mysterious as the Whisperers are to the Viceroys, but they are definitely mysterious to the public as, like, oh, we know who they are, and we know, like, what they do a little bit. Like, they go out and fight monsters that may invade or whatever. But it's like, we don't really know about what they do outside of being a knight. Like, we only know them as a knight. Does that make sense? So, yeah. They don't really have a personal life. Yeah, I mean, it could be a normal person, and then they have an identity as a knight, but I don't know when we would, like, where would that come into play? Like, if we wanted to do that and it had a use, and we were to incorporate it in such a way that it would benefit the story, then I'm all for it. But I didn't see, I don't know where that would be used and why we would implement that. Like, did you have an idea, like an interaction that Luna, like, it would be one of Luna's friends that she didn't realize was a knight or something? Maybe somewhere in school. Okay, the thing is, these are like the top of the top, so I don't really think they would be, like, I would assume that these people are more older typically. There could be some younger ones who have just been, like, trained since their childhood to become knights. But for the most part, these are like the top knights on Ilaria. Like, these are the best of the best. So it just doesn't really make sense that they would be in school. You know, plus they don't really have time for that because they've got to go to each of their islands, make sure everything's going good there. They got to protect in case monsters are invading. They've got a lot to do. So that's why I just never really saw them as like a public person who has their own personal life, because their life is pretty much just doing their job and obeying the king. They're night at day, then Whisperers at night, pretty much. I mean, it's sort of similar to that idea. Even though the Whisperers would probably have more work in the day. Like the Whisperers would be working in the day, not at the night, because typically the Viceroys would be working during the day and not so much at the night, you know? So, yeah. Does that make sense? If you want there to be like a personal life for them, we can try to incorporate it. I don't know where that would play it. Maybe there's a Whisperer that becomes a friend to one of the side characters and they don't realize it. I think these knights might also participate. Like, there might be a few who are like, hey, I'm gonna go have fun and participate in a like a tournament, like a knight tournament, you know? And so Luna could meet someone there, and Luna could end up fighting them. And maybe Luna would win. Maybe this is the final battle where Luna gets injured, you know, and Nico takes the spotlight there. Maybe it's they're fighting. Like, the way I envision it is there's like two brackets, right? And then there's the final bracket, but the Whisperer / Knight would be in this one bracket, and then Luna and Nico would be in this other one. So they would both win all of theirs and then come face to face at the very end. But like, Luna could be spectating this knight, and then this knight could be spectating Luna, and like, so they're like talking about each other's battles, and then it ends up they're fighting each other at the very end, and then everything escalates. And so that could be how that plays out. And even Luna and Nico could lose too. Like that's totally something that could happen, and I think it's probably more realistic for them to lose, unless if we wanted there to be a like the Whisperer is caught off guard. Like, the Whisperer injures Luna, and then they're like, oh shoot, I didn't really mean to do that, and so they're caught off guard. Nico's mad, and then does the final blow, like just does a punch and then knocks them out because they're like, they were like, oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that. Are you okay? And then Nico just punches them, knocks them out, you know. So it could be something like that, and then they win by default, even though they shouldn't technically be able to win because the Whisperers should, in theory, be more powerful at this point because they haven't had enough training or whatever. But yeah, that like, I think it would be cool to have Luna. I think it would be cool for Luna to have a knight that she adores and likes and stuff, and then like someone that she would look up to, because it makes sense for her to look up to a knight, for example, because she's like, oh man, I really want to be a knight, and I really love their confidence and whatnot, because Luna obviously has self-confidence issues, and so that could be something where she's like, oh man, I really wish I could be like this person, and then it turns out that this person is entering this tournament that she's also entering into, and then this knight comes up, like, watches one of Luna's fights and is like, whoa, Luna, you're pretty cool. You've got the stuff or whatever. And then Luna's like, oh my gosh, I love you, etc. And then they just kick it off, and then they're like talking about each other's battles up until the end, and then they fight at the end. So it could be something like that. Whisper could help Luna and Nico when they're traveling around, or the other way. That's also true. I mean, like, they're also going to become official knights. So it would make sense maybe for one of the top knights to sort of be, I don't know, I wouldn't say teacher, but like, would you say teacher? What would the right word for that be? Help train, like yeah, maybe a mentor. Maybe a mentor is the better word, or a general, maybe like a drill sergeant or something like that. Trainer. I don't know. Anyway, it would make sense for one of them to be at the top and like be like drilling people and like getting them into shape to become more, like maybe the top, not the top, but like a high-ranking knight. So I mean, it would make sense for one of the Whisperers there to be present as well. So yeah, there's a lot we can do. I just don't think they should have a personal life where Luna meets them out and they're buying bread, and then the Whisperer's like, hey, why don't you come back to my house? We can chill out and stuff. Like, I envision them living in the castle with the king. Like, that's just what I've always thought. Could be, we could change that, but that's just what I've always thought makes the most sense, because they are busy, and I don't think they would have enough time to just go back out into the city. It just makes more sense for them to live in the castle. Especially since this is a job they take for life. Like they do this job until they die, essentially. So I think, like, right? That's what we established, or did we establish something different? Whisperer buying bread. Well, I mean, like, the Whisperers might run errands for the king, but they're not going to... Okay, so they are a Whisperer until they're killed. That's what I thought. I mean, someone could have a sweet tooth. Like, that's fine. You can see them out in the public, but it's not like they live in the public. Like, they are disconnected from society, for the most part. Like, I mean, you could see them out at the store buying something, like a piece of candy or whatever, but that would be a very rare occurrence, probably. And it's not like, oh, they're always... I mean, they might always go to, like, the same coffee shop or whatever, each Sunday or whatever, but, like, I think for the most part, they are known as knights. Whisperers could just order low-ranked knights to go by them. Yeah, I mean, like, I think it would be cool for there to be a knight that sort of, not breaks the rules, but is sort of like, I can do this by myself. I don't need people to do these errands for me. I want to go out and be independent. And I think that's cool, but I don't think they should all do that. Like, it would be a very rare occurrence. Most Whisperers do their job, stay out of the public eye. There's just very few that are, like, considered the idols or whatever. I think that's maybe how we should do it. But again, we could change that if we really wanted to. Just imagine a whisperer with a sweet tooth drooling over bakery goods, and Luna and Nico see them at the and start freaking out. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there can be a whisperer that's like that, and then Luna's like, "Oh my gosh, that's a knight. Like that's a grand knight, elite knight. Is it? What did we? I feel like we called them like elite knights or something. Like that's fine, but it's not like every whisperer would do that. Like there could be one or two whisperers that are more like that, but definitely not all of them. Like that's all I'm saying here is in general, they are more like, let's do our job, let's stay professional. And then others are more like lighthearted and fun and stuff like that. Where do the Whisperers live? I would assume they live in the castle with the king. Like, I mean, they would have their own, like, section, probably, where they have, like, their own... It's not a house because it's inside of a castle, but it's like they have their own room, and then, like, that room breaks off into a bunch of other rooms. It's like a giant hotel room, essentially, I would think, where they live. And then they got a bunch of stuff in there. Like, they got everything they need to live there, and then some. Like it's a luxurious place to live. Like, it's a better place to live than most people live on Ilaria. So, do the Whisperers live in a village? No, they live in the king's castle. Oh, the king's castle and a place on their own island. Okay. So maybe they have their... So are you thinking each knight has their own private castle, where it's like they have that, like a vacation home? Or are you thinking there's one island that's very close to the king's castle? Although if the king's castle is in the middle of the city, I don't know. Or maybe the knights... I don't... Maybe... Is the castle in the middle, or is it sort of on the edge? Oh, the island that they are in charge of. Okay. Yeah, I would assume that they would have a room or something on the island that they were in charge of in case they had a late night or something. But I think it would also be cool if maybe they had their own, like, night island, or it was like sort of a mini, like a side island, and then it just had a giant building where all of the Whisperers might stay. You know, like, I think that could be interesting. They could just live in the king's castle, private island. There's a bunch of different options, and they don't have to be restricted to one place, but I think there should be one like place that they are more common to stay at. You know, like, it's not just a 50-50, I might stay here, I might go here kind of thing. It's like this is where I go 70% of the time, unless if I'm out doing something or training people, then I stay here. Do we have an opinion on what one we would do? Like, does anyone like one over the other? As far as, like, the 70% I stay in this area? High schools don't... well, I would assume that the high schools on Ilaria do not have dorms. Unless if you're, like, I'm sure there might be, like, a dorming house that's not officially associated with the high school on Ilaria. Like, but that's only if you're, like, traveling. Like, if your parents live somewhere else and you're going to school on another island or whatever, like, obviously you would need a place to stay. So they would make, like, boarding houses for that reason. But it's, like, I would assume it's an option. But most people, I would assume, probably just go to school locally, to a school that's close to them. So it's not, it would be more for prestigious schools or schools that are known for a specific thing where you would have dorms and a lot of people going from different islands to go there. It's bright outside today. Nobody answered my question about the islands, or like where the Whisperers would live 70 to 80% of the time. Some Whisperers like to stay in their own place, but most of them are friends that live together. Depends on the person. I would assume, like, I want to think that they're all sort of, they all know each other and they're all pretty chummy. Like, there could be some that are sort of more disconnected, but I think for the most part, it would be really cool to see them all in like this lobby room or living room where they're all just like chilling and having drinks and, you know, having snacks on a table and then just like playing games or whatever, like sort of at night when they don't really need to be doing anything. But at any moment's notice, they could just be on alert and be sent out to wherever they would need to go. Oh, you said it should just be circumstantial? I don't know. I think that would be cool. I think it would be cool to have them all live sort of in the same area. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to live in the same area all the time. But if it's just like a chill week, nothing's really going on, they don't got a lot of work to do, they could all just like chill, be having a party and whatnot. Would they come from a bunch of Whisperers, come from a different islands or parts of the... I don't know. The king, I think, just picks Whisperers based on who like the best knight is at the time. So I mean, you're a Whisperer for life, and the only time that you would really be interchanged is if you are killed, severely injured, or you are just, like, a terrible Whisperer, but I don't know why you would become a Whisperer if you were bad. So, that's really the only way to get out of the position, because once you're a Whisperer, you are a Whisperer for life. So, in the event that a Whisperer does die, or has to be put out of commission for something, the king would probably just say, okay, so who is, like, the best candidate for the Whisperer position? Like, who's the top knight? Let's go talk to them, be, like, sort of explain, like, hey, do you want to become part of the 9 elite knights? Bet the king would kill them if they could no longer fight. Probably. Unless if, like, he thought that he had a use for them, but I don't know what that use would be. So, yes, because you don't want secrets getting out. The king's very protective and wants to have control. That's why he has the Whisperers, so that he can essentially be in 9 places at once. So. Yeah. Yeah. The king's been through probably a lot of Whisperers, especially since, like, they may have a lifespan of, like, 100 years to 200 years max, depending on the species. So, yeah, the king has seen a lot and known a lot of Whisperers. So he has had to make this decision before. Okay, are we ready to... Did we have anything else? Like, we never really decided where they would... I mean, like, they have multiple different locations. I think it would be cool for them to have, like, their own place. But that might be something we decide once we're making the map and stuff like that. Because then we could be like, okay, so here's where the knights train. And, like, this is where the knight academy is. And then maybe the Whisperers have, like, their own, like, house if they're all chilling there. Where they have, like, rooms for each of the things. Stuff like that. So, Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of things are going to click into place once we get the maps. Because then we're going to be like, okay, so this is where Luna lives. This is sort of what her lifestyle is like, just depending on the area around her. And then, like, this is where the king lives. This is where the knights are. All this kind of stuff. And I think it's going to help click a lot of things. Okay, so like I said, we have 9 Whisperers. Here's Whisperer 1. We don't have any. This one... I don't know. These were all suggested by people in the Discord. This one was Leafy, I think. Right? This was Leafy. This was Kodmari, I believe. So, this is Whisperer 1. No name. Dryad. So, I don't think we've had a Dryad yet. Have we? Maybe not. Oh. Happy birthday. Can we get a happy birthday for G? Happy birthday. Oh, Bean's a Dryad too? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Power. Magic ability is Earth. We still have to cement in place. Like, we're still... The magic system is still a highly debated topic. Like, we haven't fully decided on how we want that to work yet. But I think we have established that we want creation, or not creation, sorry. What were the two called? One was manipulation. Maybe it was creation and manipulation. Either way, same idea. One is where you can create water, for example, and then the other is where you can manipulate water. So, oh, they had a name. Okay, so, okay. I don't know how you pronounce this. Yvette? Is that, I don't know. This was posted later, okay. Yvette, maybe. Creation and manipulation, okay. So I don't know what if this is Earth creation or Earth manipulation. Yvette. Okay. Yvette. That's how Yvette. Okay. Yvette. Okay. Well, one of those two words. I'll just say, I think Yvette is good. Okay, we're just going to go with Yvette then. If Leafy comes up with a pronunciation, we will use that. Okay, Yvette. Okay, cool. Weapon. Doesn't look like there's... She's shy, capitalization, but tries to hide it with an intense, rough look. Sort of like a silent but deadly character. Also wearing a hood helps her a lot. You'll see her wearing a hood 99% of the time. Okay, cool. So then I guess this would be her, like, knight outfit. When I think of knight, I think of someone in armor. But these knights maybe are special to where they don't have to, they don't have to wear armor just because they're that good, you know? Or maybe like their cloth is like a really protective substance that's like really hard to get. It's like an animal or a creature that's like super powerful and like it's essentially the same as just wearing armor. They're so powerful they don't need it yet. So I would assume that this is going to be their knight outfit. And then this is sort of what they're going to look like when they're whisperers, right? So, yep. Okay. Yep. That's all we have for Whisperer number 1. I think... Do we want to... I don't know if we want... I don't know if Leafy's here in the stream. But what weapon would maybe go good here? There weren't... I was thinking the weapons would be something cool that, like, a lot of people would, like, even just post, like, reference images of, but nobody really ended up talking about the weapons, I don't think. So, kind of sad. I sort of like envision a bow kind of thing here. I don't know why, just bow vibes coming from her. Okay, Code Bar, I know you drew a weapon, but like I was thinking people would talk about like, here's some cool weapons for Whisperers to have. We're just gonna put bow vibes here for now. That could change though. Backstory. I don't know if we should focus on the backstories yet, especially I feel like the people who make their characters should maybe make their backstory as well. Like that just seems like something that the creator of the character should make, you know? So I'm gonna save that. What if Shy Girl had an axe as a weapon? Interesting. That's cool too. Bow was first impression, but I could also see an axe. Cause she like, you know, there's like, it looks like leaves up here. I don't know, that could be a butterfly, but dryads give me nature vibes, so an axe could also sort of work like oh, chopping down trees in nature or something. Huge axe. Bow vibes or axe. Large. You spell it axe or axe? I don't know what this one's going based off of, but I always spell it A-X-E. Grammarly can be weird sometimes. We'll just have to wait. Like, there are going to be so many other, like, there's 9 whispers. Like, there's a lot. I think one of them should be a ranged one, at least. So, we'll just see which one fits the bow better, and then which one fits the axe better. You know? Okay. Relationship with other whisperers. I would assume she would be one of the ones who's more disconnected. You know, like, if they're all having a party, she would be the one in the corner. So, probably more disconnected. I'll just put that there. There weren't like a whole lot of designs, but there are enough to get us by, and then we'll have to come up with other ones. So, yes. Okay. Whisperer number 2, Solstice. Cat. It's a cat. It is spelled axe. Okay. Well, that's fine. I don't really care. Like, I think both spelling nowadays is probably fine. I don't think anyone cares too much, but I will fix it just to get rid of the line. Oh yeah, okay. The Whisperer numbers do not mean the ranking of the knights. They don't have... And, okay, each one of these will be assigned to a specific island. But I feel like we should go through all of them first and then assign them to specific islands that maybe match their personality. You know? Because if you have one that really loves caves and shiny stuff, they might be assigned to the cave island where it's like really shiny roofs. So, just saying. And that will be put in the backstory. Okay, Solstice, Cat. Magic ability, Fire. Code Mari, is this fire manipulation or fire creation? What do you think? Or it could be both. I mean, like, it could be both. Because they should, in theory, have... like, the king could just be like, yeah, so I'm going to give you a bunch of cool different abilities. So the king could just be like, okay, to make you not, like, super OP, but more OP than the rest, I will give you whatever your current ability is, but also both sides of it, right? So if she was born a fire creation user, the king... No. The king can give... the king can give people like a bead or a crystal with a trapped soul, and that soul's power could be used by them. Isn't that what we decided? I thought that that's how the king can use all of the different elements, because he has like a jewel that has all these trapped souls in there, and those souls give him extra power. That's not, I thought that that's what we decided. That's for species magic? I don't remember that. I don't know. I might be thinking of an... I was pretty sure we've talked about the king using all the elements before. Like, because I clearly remember this. I remember talking about the king having some sort of pendant or something with all these trapped souls. This could be an entirely outdated idea as well. Okay, so that, like, but I know for a fact we at least talked about it. Okay, and we talked about how maybe Luna and Nico would win. Is the king has this jewel that he wears, and Luna and Nico have to take it and break it to free the souls, which I know may be an outdated idea for that specifically, but I remember that's what we talked about at the time. And breaking that jewel would release the souls, making the king only have his original magic ability, and then they would have more ease in defeating him. Okay, so it's outdated, but I know for a fact we talked about that. Okay, and I thought we discarded that. Okay, well, I'm sorry, I forgot that we discarded that then, or maybe I just was never told. I don't know. Although I don't know why I wouldn't have been told that, because that was probably decided on stream. Wow. Well, I always thought... It's weird. That's weird. I thought that was something that we were doing, but I guess not. Why are you against that? I think it'd be kind of cool for the king to just, like, have all these abilities. Could be a really, really cool fight. He's doing all these different things. Too OP? Okay. I mean, fair enough. Okay, well, either... Man, I really thought that the king had all the powers. I thought that's just been in my head this entire time. Okay, well, I don't know why it wouldn't make... I mean, like... It has been a while since I've touched up on the Okay, sure, we can talk about that later. We'll talk about the Whisperers for now, though. Oh wait, weapon. Fire blades that can be thrown like claws. I really liked this. This was a cool design. Like, unique weapons, that's what I want to see. Bubbly, cool, and funny. Although I would like to see capitalization, please. Each Whisperer could have their own emblem. I think that's also a cool idea. If each one is sort of like... Because, I mean, they're also knights. Like, I don't know if the Whisperers themselves would have an emblem. Maybe they would, like on the cloak here. But at least for the knight side of things, they could have an emblem and then, like... I don't want to say, like, have fans, but essentially, like, have fans, and then, like, there would be, like shirts and stuff that you could buy with the particular emblem, depending on how popular a knight was. So. There's a common emblem, but they can have their own stuff. But yeah, something like that. Okay, well, this looks like it's just describing... this. The symbol, for example, in the sun. Hold on, it's a little small. Special symbol for oh, is the okay, okay, I see. Yeah. So that's interesting. Why are they upbeat and happy? This is their night side of things. There's two sides to the Whisper. There's the night side and the Whisperer side. The Whisperer side is very bland. And this, really, they're only seen as Whisperers by the Viceroys. And like when they're out doing secretive stuff for the king. And they don't really want to be like associated with knights, or they don't want to be talked to or whatever. That's their Whisperer design. This is their public eye view. The people don't know, people typically don't know of Whisperers. That's more of like higher up stuff. But people know of the knights. So, like, for example, Solstice. She could be one of the more popular knights, and people are like, yay, Solstice, go fight in this knight tournament and do this and that. And then, like they see her as this public figure, and like everyone, like there has to be a good personality that people like to be attached with a knight, so that way it's like you can grow a fan base or something, you know. So yes. Code Mari, what would the you can create a backstory later, but as far as the relationship with other Whisperers, what would, like, probably like pretty good, right? Like, she the life of the party, or is she like there, or is she funny, or like what? I mean, I know you said funny here, but like in the group of the knights, where does she fit? Pretty nice to everyone. Okay. Life of the party. Let's just say that for now. Okay, Whisperer number 3. I believe this is Mr. Fruit's Whisperer. Von Friesta. Species plant person. She's able to connect to other plants using roots to clue together what happened hours or even days before in the area. Power. Fire manipulator. She specializes in taking the heat from her surroundings. Some of her spells are taking the heat from the lake to walk on it, continuously taking the heat from the surrounding air of her enemies as their body heat is transferred to the colder surrounding air. Vaughn effectively freezes them, using the stored heat to release immensely hot flames. Her flames are white. She has no weapon. I feel like she has to have a weapon. Hey, Raw Lunix, welcome. I think every Whisperer should have a weapon of some kind. Although for her, I sort of imagine one of those like pointy knives with the circles, like, you know, the circle and the point and then like the arrow on the bottom, you know. That's sort of what, like, just like a small little dagger kind of thing. That's all I envision for her. Or a staff. A staff could work too. I mean, sure. I mean, yours is on here, Raw Lunix, but I don't, like, are you talking about on Discord later? Or are you going to be home soon and then we should just skip yours and then come back to it? Throwing knives? Sort of like the throwing spears, or knives, not spears. But possibly just one. Like, if you don't want her to have a knife, it could just be like a small little sphere. You'd like to help with 7? Okay. She doesn't like to exert energy and wants to focus on her magic. Okay. Yes, but I feel like they should all have a weapon just in case, you know? Like, just in case something goes wrong, or they need to do melee combat for whatever reason. That's why I was thinking like a dagger. Like, yeah. That's why I was thinking a dagger, so it would be hidden. So you wouldn't need it, but it's in your pocket just in case you need it. Or something. Like, yeah. This is the image I was this is like sort of the knife I had in my mind. That she would carry around just in her pocket. Does this... This is what I had in my mind, okay? So, I mean, it could totally be something different, but this is just... Or it could just be like a pocket knife or whatever, but... Whisperers are people... Whisperers look like this, and they go around and make sure that the viceroys of each island are doing what they should. And then they have knight forms, where they look like this, and they just have their own personality, where they are like official, like the top 9 knights of the kingdom, and they obey like the king and stuff. His dagger's hidden in her boots for emergencies. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. Okay. Personality. Vaughn is often shy around people, but is confident in her magical abilities. Growing up, her existence revolved around how she could bring warmth to her village. This led to her self-worth being based on how her magic abilities could be used to those around her. So she takes orders easily. That's a long backstory. She was born in a small village to other people, of other plant people in the frozen wastelands. So is she on the... I guess she would probably be in the, like, the mountainous island, right? Yeah. Where was I? I lost track. Frozen Wasteland, yeah. Is that what we called it? Is it called the Frozen Wastelands, or is that just, like, maybe one of their nicknames? Yeah, the mountain island. Most of the people living in the village were born there and didn't have much money to leave. The village was so small that there weren't many visitors, and people rarely had babies. No one in the village was a fire user either, so everyone was hoping Von Karma would be a fire creator. When she was very young, she made a flame appear in her hand, and her parents thought it was a fire creator. She was a fire creator, and were disappointed and confused when they found out she was just a manipulator. There was no fire around Von Karma when she was born, so if she was to be a fire user, she would have been a fire creator. And if she was not a creator, then she would not have been able to create a flame in her hand. The explanation for both of these situations is simple. She used her own body heat. She quickly learned how to transfer the heat between her body and the environment. When she was 13, she was on a journey to the nearest city with her father for supplies. The city was attacked by monsters, and Vaughn defended by freezing all of them. A higher up within the army witnessed this and asked if she could go to the King's Island and train to be a knight. Vaughn agreed to go as long as her village would be compensated with money. She hasn't seen her family since. Boom. That is some hot body heat. Is there anything else? Like, this one's pretty fleshed out, so I don't think there's really anything else we need to talk about here, right? Aside from the personality with others. She would probably be more disconnected as well, right? Mr. Fruit, maybe? Oh, Frozen Wastelands is a biotype. I see, I see. So she's close to Yvette. I'm down with that. Okay, that's fine. She wouldn't intentionally ignore them, just be quiet. Okay. That's cool. You'd say close with number 6? Oh, which is the other whisperer. Okay, we will talk about that once we get to number 6. All right, whisper number 4, Nova. I didn't catch who made this one in the Discord because it was posted like with 10 minutes to spare, I think, right? I don't know. Elf demon hybrid. Now, here's the thing. Demons are considered monsters, and I don't know how we would do that. So, we'll have to talk about the policy on demons and them integrating in with society, especially if she would be in public eye. Probably not the best to have a demon hybrid because she would be hated on by the public. So, I don't know. Little Luminous made it. Okay. So I don't know if we're going to be able to do the demon. I think demon hybrids and stuff is really cool. But I don't know if having one, especially like in the higher up, would work. Power fire. That also, we kind of have a lot of fire, so we'll have to make, I want it to sort of be evenly spread around. So that, because I mean, like thinking about it, the king would sort of probably, I mean like, I don't know what the king would prioritize, probably just like ability to be a knight and not so much of magic ability. But I would think, if it was me, I would also want there to be a good variety of magic types around, just in case, you know, like if a situation calls for a water type and you don't have any water types, you're like, well, shoot, what are we doing? She can be water. Okay. We will change her to be water. Creation or manipulation? Water. I'm fine with water. Air. I mean, okay, we have a couple that don't have any concepts yet, so we can add more airs. There's 9, so we'll probably have 2 of each and then plus an extra one. So we'll see. It's not... you just have to send them soon. Like send them in the Discord like right now, and then Mr. Fruit, could you please add it if it gets sent? Yeah. You don't think water fits? Okay. I mean, I was just going based off of what Little Luminous said. I'm fine with air too. I mean, like, in theory, a demon fits more with fire, but if we're not doing demon, then it doesn't matter too much. Anyway, okay. Personality. Her first instinct is always kill, and she is very crazy. She also has anger issues and is offended easily. She's afraid of being abandoned and losing everything she is built for herself. Her favorite thing to do is train and make sure she is ready for everything. This might be a little too, like, I'm fine. Youngest Whisperer and an orphan. Like, that's fine. But I don't know if the king would trust someone this chaotic. Like, that's the only thing. That's the only thing I'm a little concerned with, is that would the king want someone this chaotic and potentially could be disloyal if she just was like, oh, better kill this person, even though the king wanted them alive, right? Oh, that's right. There's 5 elements, not 4. Space. Okay. Yeah, I forgot about space. Forgot about space, yeah. I don't... I think I like Nova. I like Elf. I don't... A lot of this might need to be reworked. Nothing against you, Little Luminous. I'm just... First thing is the demon. I don't think we're going to have too many demons in society. I mean, like, Blake is an exception, but Blake is a half demon, half elf, right? Yeah. And then personality, I think needs a little bit of work too. Nova, space, okay, sure, let's do that. And then, do you have any other idea, like, elf drag? I don't really want to do an elf dragon hybrid either because Luna's already an elf dragon hybrid. So I would say either dragon or elf. Pick one or the other. If she was a dragon, she could keep the horns. Crazy Gamer says dragon. If that impacts your decision at all, Little Luminous. And Little Luminous was never heard from ever again. Elf. Okay, we're doing elf. She's an elf. Oh yeah, did you think of a weapon for her either? Or either? I don't. She could be the youngest Whisperer and also an orphan who is brought up to be who she is. You know, like they saw great potential in her space abilities, and then they were like, yes, let's do this. Maybe she, instead of like being this extreme, maybe she could be more on the extreme end. But I don't think, like, not over the top extreme. A knife? A knife? You want a knife? Another knife? A sword. Okay, I think a sword's better. We already sort of have a knife. I want them all to sort of have unique weapons, and no weapon is the same. So I think if whatever, Vaughn, if Vaughn has a knife, no others should probably have a knife. Okay, so maybe she didn't realize her potential, and she was just sort of like messing around, having fun. But then as she started like fighting and honing her ability, she was like, dang, this is actually a lot of fun, and she got a little more crazy. Brass knuckles? We're going for really subtle weapons here. I mean, maybe, but we also sort of have to think with what weapon would go best with their ability. So I mean, brass knuckles, if made out of a certain material, maybe it could work with like, because space has to do with magnets, right? affecting magnetism stuff, right? So I mean, like you could essentially have magnet punches where it's like you launch someone. I mean, she is a space. Yeah. She can't, she's not, I mean, okay. She could sort of be like regarded as the lowest ranking, but she would still be in charge of her own island. Because she is one of the main whisperers. So I think maybe what happened is the previous whisperer that she overtook died somehow. And she maybe wasn't, it was a little too early maybe. And so they were like, dang, they still got to keep a little bit of an eye on her because she's not fully ready yet, but she is still considered a full whisperer. Okay. I'm fine with brass knuckles. Personality. The most extreme whisperer. I'm pretty bad at writing personalities. We can come up with a full-blown personality later. But I think for now, this is probably fine. Like, she's more extreme. She is a more extreme character. Also, this design's gonna have to change because this is... I mean, like, a little bit. It'll have to change a little bit, but... Should we add ages to everyone? Probably. But I don't think it's too important right now. Maybe. Like, that's something that we could just probably slap on and it doesn't matter too much. She has anger issues. She won't whisper. Well, that might change. Her personality is going to have to change, okay? But as of right now, she's the most extreme whisperer. And maybe is not... Maybe the least loyal whisperer. But still loyal. Like she will follow what the king says. The trauma of losing her parents. Okay, so she lost her parents? Oh yeah, she's an orphan, duh. And having powerful magic. Type of the situation. Having to fight as a whisperer, yeah. Okay. Relationship with others. I think... I feel like others see her as a little kid. I think maybe that's the best way to describe it, is they view her as a little kid. I think that's good. Okay, Ralunix. Are you... It doesn't... I think we're going to skip yours until you are ready to work on this, right? So we'll skip Ralunix's, and then we can come back. Also, I don't think we have had a single male whisperer this entire thing. We need to mix it up a little bit here. Is this... Wait, hold on. Oh. Is this Ralunix's or is this someone else's? Which one's Ralunix's? Whisperer 7. I thought this one was Ralunix's too. I feel like The rest of them need to be male. Half and half, guys. Okay. Okay. Relax. Chill. Okay. Okay. I thought this one was yours, so I was just a little confused. Because you had said something about the 7. Okay. That's good. So, Whisper 6. This one was also Mr. Fruits, correct? 6 through 9 should be... Okay, I agree. And that makes it better because we haven't developed any of these left. Yet. Yeah. Okay. Whisper number 6. Let's do this one. Was there... Wait, okay, Mr. Fruit, was there anything else put into the Discord? Just out of curiosity. Name? You don't have a name. Species fish person. That's interesting. We haven't had a fish person yet. There hasn't been a fish person at all. Oh, there was a Whisper cloak design. We already kind of have that, though. I mean, like, we can add it on here if we want to, but, like, this is sort of just the concept. Okay, fish person. That's going to be interesting. I wonder what that would look like. Has red hair, red and purple hair, and fishy fins. Water creator. Okay. Weapon daggers. Okay. How... We sort of already have a dagger type of weapon. So... What do we want to do, Mr. Fruit? It sort of is. What is it then? A knife and a dagger are very similar. A knife's just a little smaller than a dagger. Oh wait. Throwing knife? No, you put dagger. Dagger. And dagger. They both say dagger. Okay, I think all of the Whispers should have dagger. What if she had a he? This is a he, I think. What if he has a trident? Tridents are often seen as like a underwater type of weapon. Throwing knives. Okay. Throwing knives. I'm fine with that. I want like cool, impactful weapons that are like big. Like, okay, the rest of these better have really cool weapons because the rest of them are pretty boring. Not gonna lie. Throwing knives, I mean, it could be cool, I guess, but it's also a little bit more boring. Like, I think cool giant axe or sword is like, that's pretty cool. I think we should have more big weapons. A whip. Yeah, a cool whip. Maybe it would work too. Fighting style is very fluid. It can change tactics instantly. He flows like a river. Personality. Thrill-seeking. Wants to become the strongest whisperer. Doesn't care about the king's ideals, just wants to fight. Would the king make someone like this a whisperer, though? I don't know. That might need to change a little bit. Just to fit along with... Because you have to think about this from the king's perspective, right? And maybe this works because I'm the king. The king wants people who are 100% loyal, for the most part. The only exception I feel like that maybe would happen is her, but that's only because she's younger and and she is yet to be trained to the extent as everyone else. Wants to keep being a whisper so we can fight, so we wouldn't betray the king. Okay. I mean, in exchange for... Okay, I guess I would be fine with that. I'd be fine with that. It's just... I think this should be more of a side of him that's like the king doesn't know 100% about. Because if the king felt like he was a threat, like helping Luna and Nico, like if the king knew about that, he'd probably he'd be outed. You know, like the king does not want any backstabbers. So if the king ever finds out about this, he's gone. You know. Whispers aren't around in exchange for a fight. Likes to torment his viceroy. That's a rip in the chat for the viceroy. That'd be so sad. Oh man. Backstory. What's up? Mr. Fruit. You are a really good writer. But why don't you ever capitalize anything? Or maybe that was just... I've been capitalizing other stuff. I don't know if you like it that way. I do not. Capitalize the beginning of a sentence. That's how you do it. Was left in the desert as a baby because his parents wanted a water creator instead of a manipulator. Has major daddy issues. Relationships with others. Likes to tease and flirt with the other whisperers. So he's sort of like a playboy, a little bit. Okay. But this is like... This is essentially the same thing as this. Like, this is just saying... Or like this. Would you put it like this? I don't think so. This just looks weird. And then what about, like, all of the other things? Like throwing knives, thrill-seeking, fish person. Like, you gotta stay consistent, too. I don't know how I feel about this, leaving the baby in the desert kind of thing. Like, this just seems really cheap to try to get. I mean, like, I understand how it works and stuff. It's just like, that's kind of mean, you know? That's kind of rough. But also, at the same time, like, I don't think it should be 100% dependent on that, because then everyone in the exact same area would be the same kind of magic user, you know? Like I want there to be some sort of RNG to it. Because, like, say, for example, in the city, how does it... Like, if the city's a drier area, then everyone's just going to be end up being a water user. And I don't think it should be like that. I don't think you can 100% get the kind of magic you want your child to have just by placing them in an environment. Because it only affects the creator versus the manipulator. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, sorry. It's been a while since I've touched up on the magic stuff. That's right. So it's okay. That's fine. That's good. Okay, fair enough. That's good. But okay, at the same time then, that would just sort of mean that, like, in the city, for example, if it was more dry, then everyone would just be a creator then, right? I still think there should be some sort of RNG to it. Because that just seems like, depending on the area, everyone is going to be essentially the same type. Either a creator, like, okay, for example, in the Frozen Wasteland, every fire user is essentially going to be a creator because there's just no fire. Like, I mean, I know that yours was a manipulator, but more likely, okay. I feel like it should be more extreme cases. Like if you can, in theory, determine which magic type you want, as far as creation or manipulation, but it has to be an extreme case. Sort of like leaving a child in the desert. Like that you're almost guaranteed because there's like very little water. So like you are pretty much guaranteed that. Whereas in the city, where there's just a lot of environment, it's pretty much random at that point. I don't know. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I was just wanting to clarify. Okay, relax. Relax. Okay. Fair enough, fair enough. Alright. Skipping around Linuxes again. This is actually taking a lot longer. We had some long discussions here. I don't know how we want to do a part 2, but I don't know. Okay, Whisper number 8. So this is where we get to Code Mario, did you say you had another one? You want number 9 to be the king's son, but some people don't want the king to have a child. I don't know how I feel about that. I could see it, but at the same time, I don't know why. Oh, you made a uniform design, okay. Linux, it's fine. I don't even think we would be able to get through all of them. I don't know how we want the king, like, do we want the king to have a son? Like, first of all, who's the mother? Second of all, why? Why would the king want to have a son? That's the question. Because the king is not looking... The king is not going to have a son as a successor. His successor is going to be the next guardian. Which is why he's doing the notebook trial. So it doesn't make really too much sense for him to have a son. He got desperate after not finding anyone to take his place, so he had a kid and killed the mom. But the son turned out to be a disappointment. Okay. But would a disappointment as a son justify him becoming a whisperer? Like, I don't know. Whisperers are supposed to be, like, the top of the top. Now, obviously not, like... The Whisperers could have different ideals from the king, and that's really what the king is focusing on, is making sure that they have the ideals. He cares more about the ideals and the ability to fight, which, I mean, you need to have that ability too, but, like, combination of both the ideals and the ability. So, I mean, would it just be a failure in the ideals? Like the son doesn't care about the same things that the king does? He's a disappointment because he's too dependent and wanting to appease. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. I could see that. So then what role would he play? Like, would the common people know that the king has a son? Because typically when you think of, like, oh, the king has a son, that's going to be our next king. Which, in turn, would make the people start thinking, like, oh, is the king going to be resigning here soon? Like, is his thousands of years of reign coming to an end? Like, to me, If I've been ruler for thousands of years and I suddenly have a son, I would think that people would start thinking that maybe I'm going to quit here soon and let the son take over. The public doesn't know. Okay. The king has a son for one purpose, but trying to fulfill that purpose has led to the disappointment. I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of the son either. Like, I could see it. It makes sense. It just doesn't... What impact would the son have on the story? I think that's what we need to be addressing. Is there a reason why the Whisperer is a son other than just, you know, making sense for the story where the king got desperate? Like, that makes sense. But what impact would it have on the story? Maybe he uses him to manipulate the main characters? The public doesn't know that he's the son, though. And he could just use any other Whisperer. Show the king's cruel side, and he could end up helping Luna and Nico. Helping them how? I don't know. Here's the thing. I want the main battle and the main people where it's like, when you think of the main character group, you think of these four people. Luna and Nico obviously are the two at the top. And then they have their friend groups and stuff, but I want them to be regarded less as a group and more as the side character friends. I want the main group to feel like Luna, Nico, Blake, and Callisto. Obviously, Callisto coming later. But I want it to be mostly Luna and Nico. I want them to get most of the spotlight. Okay, I don't know. It feels like we're adding a son just to add a son. It doesn't feel like there's a good way to use the son at this point. And that's, I think, why I'm against it. I mean, like, sure, it's a relatively small detail, but at the same, like, if it was just a small detail just to be a small detail, then sure. But that seems like a pretty big deal to me. Like, oh, the king has a son. That's a pretty big deal. Like, that could be a lot of, like, that could have a huge impact, depending on how we were to write this story. And also at the same time, it makes more sense for the son to be the next successor of the king. So if the public finds out about it, then the public's going to be like, so is he going to be the next king? Because that's what makes sense. But if we're switching from there being a king and stuff to it becoming more of a democracy, then it doesn't, like, where would the king fit into play there? It just, I don't know. It seems a little too... I don't know. I'm not really... Like, if he had a purpose and the purpose was important to the story and we knew what we wanted to do with the king, then that's great. But right now it just sort of is like, well, the king's son could do this. he could help Luna and Nico. But there's no, like, we don't have an impactful reason yet. If we come up with one, that's great, and then we can add them. But I don't think right now that's maybe the best idea. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, maybe we should, I think if we wanted there to be a son for the king, we can add him in later, and we can just like tack that on to one of these guys. But as of right now, I think we should leave it as just a normal person. The king has 9 of the most powerful knights in the entire knight army at his disposal, and Luna and Nico only have each other and Blake. They're going to need inside help. So you're thinking the sun would be on their side? Like completely? Like I said, the king, unless the king was just going easy on the sun, which I don't think he would do, like the king is only going to appoint people as Whisperer if he trusts them to run the island and be 100% loyal. For the most part. I mean, like, obviously that fish guy is the one exception, possibly, of being maybe not 100% loyal, but 90% loyal. Even if this character is his son, if the king doesn't feel like he's going to be loyal, or there's a chance for there to be maybe a betrayal somewhere, I don't think Luna and Nico could convince him. I don't know. This feels like something where if the son has always been 100% loyal to the king, then all of a sudden Luna and Nico come along, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to him to just be like, oh, you know what? I have been enlightened. I will change my entire worldview. It doesn't... Like, the son would always have to feel like Ilaria wasn't good enough, or that maybe the king isn't good enough, or whatever. But if he's always felt that way, the king is likely going to know. Wouldn't be that quick. This takes place over the course of like a year or two. Right? I still... It's like, it's really hard to change your ideals. Like, if you're growing up a certain way, it's really hard to change how you view the world. Like, you need a major something to happen. Okay, well, sure, I assumed... I did assume that the kid... Okay, but it takes longer... I don't know. To me, if this son is brought up and raised that he needs to obey the king, if he doesn't obey the king, he's going to die. And he has to be 100% loyal. If he's brought up that way, which you would think he would be, that's how he's going to be thinking. And he's going to have in his mind, I'm going to be loyal to the king. He's our savior or whatever. And he's not just going to turn on the king because a couple of kids are like, yo, this guy's actually bad. And I mean, the son might not even know he's a son. Like, that's the thing. He might not even know he's a son. He may just assume like, oh, I'm lucky to be here. And he doesn't even know. The kid would be having doubts that he pushes down because his purpose is all he has. I don't know. In the eyes of a king, he is a failure. Yes, he would be. But the reason for him being a failure at that point, or at least what Mr. Fruit said, was because he was just too... He took too many orders, right? Like, he didn't think for himself enough, right? That was the reason. What do we need a son for? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because, to me, if you wanted to have a whisperer that turned on the king and sort of betrayed him a little bit, I think the son's actually going to be one of the worst options, because like I said, the king is going to raise the son to be 100% loyal, which it ends up being the fault of the king, because the son is too loyal, and the king does not like that. So it just doesn't make sense, especially for the king's son, who is brought up in a specific way. The rest of the knights, for the most part, aside from Nova, they were all brought up in their own towns with their own friends and their own childhoods, and then they just became knights. And then the king was like, yo, you can be a whisperer, but you gotta be 100% loyal. And then they were like, yeah, sure. Which means it makes more sense for them to betray, because they might have their own ideals, and they were brought up maybe in a certain way where it's like they could see that maybe the king is doing things wrong. Whereas the son would be brought up in a way where he believes everything that the king does is the right way to do things, and that there's no fault, because that's just like if you want a son to be loyal and have the same sort of ideals as you, that's sort of what you need. But the king's son just ends up not being able to think for himself. Like, I mean, the king sort of wants people to... The king wants the son to be able to think for himself, but have him have the same ideals that the king does. But he has the same ideals, he just can't think for himself. He has those ideals because it's been implanted in his brain that those are the only ideals that are good. King has ideals and he wants his son to fulfill those ideals, but if the son of all people is the one that turns on him, then it shows how the king's ideals are wrong. Ideals are never questioned. I don't know. If the son is a failure because he can't think for himself and he just believes everything that the king says, then that just isn't that going hand in hand with the same thing? Son had these ideals because he never had to question them, so it would be easy for Luna and Nico to show him how wrong they are. I disagree. I don't think the son is going to be brought up in a way where he would not betray the king, I think. The king wants absolute loyalty. And if no matter who it is, if the king feels like you are going to betray him, he's going to kill you. The king never gave evidence. Sure, but if the problem of the son in the king's eyes is that this son just cannot think for himself, right? He's only done what he's blindly told. That's how he's gonna be. Okay, he can't think for himself. Okay, Then if Luna and Nico come along and are like, hey, you're wrong, think about it logically, think about what the king is doing and look at around you and stuff. If the main problem of the son is that he can't think for himself, Luna and Nico telling him, hey, think about it logically, that's not going to work because he doesn't know how to think for himself. That's the issue here. He cannot change the way he thinks because he does not think. That's the issue. There is no way for him to realize that he's wrong because he's just doing everything subconsciously. And it doesn't... Luna and Nico would give evidence. But the problem is the people who are brought up in a way where they just don't believe... The problem is, if you're brought up in a way where you believe that this one person is always right, and someone tells you, no, that's not true, here's the facts, they're still going to believe the person, no matter what the facts say. Yeah. Okay. Yes, the people who can think for themselves. Okay, the problem is the personality of the son does not match with who you're trying to make him. If the son cannot think for himself, if that's his issue, if the issue of the son is that he cannot think for himself and he just takes orders blindly, and he just believes whatever the king says, Luna and Nico can't say, look at this evidence. Look at how right we are. Sure, Luna and Nico are 100% right, and the evidence says that. But the son's just not going to believe it, because he is brought up in a way that says the king is always right. And if anybody says that that the king is wrong, then they're wrong. That's just how it works. There's no... That's just how this son is if his problem is that he can't think for himself. I mean, you can make him start thinking for himself, but really, if he's not... I guess it depends on the age, okay? It depends on how old he is and when if he starts being able to think for himself, at what age? Because after a certain point, it's very hard to break out of the loop. Said he wants to fulfill his purpose, but the king doesn't deem him worthy. So what is his purpose then? What is this son's purpose? Because in my mind, the king had this son only as an experiment to see, okay, so is this son going to be loyal to me and is he going to make a good fit? Just as an experiment. That's it. And then as he, like the son would start growing up, and then if the king realizes, like, no, this isn't going to work, he's just going to, like, pretty much abandon the son and then just be like, okay, you know what, you're a failure, not going to deal with you, you're just going to be here. Maybe you can be a knight, you know, like a blind knight that just follows orders. His purpose, I know, that's his original purpose, but the king deemed him as a failure, right? So he can't do that anymore. And here's the thing. It doesn't make sense if the son cannot think for himself, it doesn't make sense for him to be a whisperer anyway, because the king wants to appoint people who can make decisions on the king's behalf that fits with the king's agenda. You know, like, for example, I don't know, if Vaughn's over here on the mountain island, and the mountain island viceroy is like, okay, we should do this, and then Vaughn thinks, I don't think the king would like this, here's what we should do instead, then Vaughn can advise the viceroy and tell him what to do. But if they can't, if the son's in that position and can't think for himself, he's not gonna know what's a bad idea and what's a good idea, unless if it's like specifically stated to him, like, this is what's good, this is what's bad. You have to have some sort of ability to think for yourself and think of like, okay, so here's what the king would like. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the son idea. Like, I could see it maybe, but if he's, I don't know. Okay, but if you're thinking about it from the king's perspective, which is what you have to do, the king is going to try to bring the son up in a way where the son is completely loyal to him and shares the same ideals as him. And that's going to result in him essentially just being a follower of the king. I don't... People that are raised in cults eventually realize that it's not a good thing. I don't know. I think it would depend on the person. Maybe that's true, and maybe that would work. But that would mean that the only reason why that would work is if the son could think for himself. Okay, then why did the king deem him a failure then? Did that change? Did I miss the change there? He just doesn't have the same drive the king has? As in, he just doesn't want to be king? Like, he just doesn't think that's fun? He wants to do what the king wants him to do. Okay. Feel like I need... Is that... Okay, so why does the king deem him a failure because of that? Like, isn't that... Okay, so the king does want someone who can... who shares the same ideals as him, but can also think of those ideals by themselves. Right? Okay, the son wants to appease the king. I don't know. So he copies the same ideals, but doesn't know how to lead like the king and maintain control. Okay, that just seems like he has to learn how to lead, though. Like, I mean, sure, there might be some people who instantly know how to lead and are good leaders, but I think at the same time that's a skill that you can develop. And like there are definitely certain methods that you can like study on like how to be a leader and how to get crowds on your side and whatnot. So that's definitely something that he could learn in theory. King is impatient and doesn't... Okay, how old is the son? Around 20. So we have a son who... 13? 13 is really young, I would think. To me, 13 would be a little too young in deciding if someone was worthy or not to be king. Just saying. I would say it would have to be a lot older than that. Like 20 sounds good for that. Thinking about when children start to question their parents. There's a couple articles that I've read that have said once kids start to go to college, and here's the thing, college requires you to dive into deeper thinking, and it requires you to dive deeper than just like the basic level facts, and like you have to analyze. If you're reading an article, you got to analyze the article, really pick apart what each thing is saying. And then that's the time when the kids start thinking about like, okay, so here's the facts. Maybe here's what my parents said, and like here's what their beliefs were. But thinking about it, since I've learned to think a little bit, and like I've had to analyze things, that's when it's typically when people go to college, at least according to the articles I've read. No, I'm talking about U.S. colleges. So yes, it's typically around college. Okay. I'm not talking about high school, I'm talking about college. College is when people start to become more mature. Okay? I would think so. I mean, obviously not everybody, but typically when you think of most, at least people who are actually trying to do stuff, you know, like more important degrees. Okay, yes. I mean, sure. Yes. There is that stereotype. But typically, the way you're raised is a lot of what you believe in. Your parents' beliefs are a lot of what you believe in. I don't know if that's... I like, definitely on some aspects, sure. But I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on how they were raised. A lot of it depends on how good the parents were at parenting. So if you just have like really bad parents and and they didn't even, like, raise you in a good way, then sure, you're gonna be like, why would I listen to you? You're bad parents. Like, regardless of if the parents' ideals are good or not, right? Like the parents could believe in, like, everyone being nice to each other and like have really good ideals, but the kid would just be like, you are such bad parents that I don't even want to be like you. And so they would just end up being a really bad person, right? So you could have that. It just depends on how good the parents are. Okay, but the king wasn't even a parent, though. The king would appoint someone else to be the parent. That's the problem. The king is too busy to be a parent. So the king would just be like, okay, someone be this guy's parent. I mean, there's the possibility that the son doesn't even know that he is the king's son fully. I mean, like he just, maybe that hasn't clicked yet. Like he sort of subconsciously realizes it, but he's like, he doesn't officially realize it because the king has never treated him like a son. I mean, I think it would be more of like an adoptive parent, I think. Like, you would have someone, like a guardian figure. Like, the son would be close to a guardian figure, maybe, but it wouldn't be the king. The king's just there. Like, someone who the son is taught, like, this is who is right. This is who you worship. The son knows that he's special. Well, the son might not even know that because it's not like he's had much experience. He's been locked away from society. The only people he really knows are, like, the people maybe making him dinner and his guardian figures and the king. Like, he's met with the king before and stuff. But he doesn't realize what situation he's in at this point. Like, it's only until later where he realizes, like, wait, am I somehow related to the son? Like what's going on here? I don't think he would realize what is fully going on. The king would want to control over how the son was raised. I don't think the king would probably say, raise the kid in this way, and he would expect the guardian to raise the king or the son that way. I don't think the king has enough time to be a parent. The king has king duties to do. So yes, he would want to, but he would just be like, well, when it comes down to it, I would rather be working on my own stuff because choosing the next successor is not something I need to do. Like, I still have time. Like, I could just kill more people and then we're good. But yeah. Okay. I think we can all sleep on it and think about it some more. There's not going to be a stream next week because holiday break. We've got Christmas on Friday and then that whole week until New Year's. And then in 2 weeks, again, should we just do a part 2 of this? I think that might be the best option to just sort of like keep our minds in the same place. Okay. Okay, good. Well, this, I think, we had a lot of really good discussions here. Obviously, we didn't get anywhere close to finishing. So submit more designs to the Discord. And obviously, all more males because we've got over half females. So we need some more males in here, guys. Yeah, in 2 weeks on, let me see, what day is it? On the 3rd. January 3rd, 2021. First stream of the year. In 2 weeks, we will do part 2. Correct. So, we will do Whisper. We will go over Ralunix's Whisper number 5 and Whisper number 7. We did Whisper 6. Yeah. Then Whisper 8 and then 9. Maybe we can continue the discussion on the sun thing as well. I think it could potentially work. It just... And he needs to have a purpose. Okay, that's my biggest thing, is that the sun needs to have a purpose, and his purpose has to make sense with how he was raised. Because the way I see it is he was raised, which I mean, he could be raised in a different way, but the way I envision it being is he was raised to adore the king and to follow the king. And if his dream is to appease the king, why would he betray the person he's trying to appease? Like, if that's his one goal in life, why would he break that one goal, you know? So, yeah, I think the biggest reason to talk about a sun is if we have a reason for the sun. So, yeah, okay. But anyway, I'm going to end the stream here. Thanks, everyone, for joining me again on this great Sunday. And we will continue this in 2 weeks, in 2021. So, happy holidays, too. Happy winter. Winter stuff. Yay. Winter. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, 5 days away. So, yeah. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys all later. All right. See ya.